I personally believe that this code was designed to organize the internet. So when you think of schema and you think of a search, so you search for a name or a brand or a product, there is hundreds of thousands of results, past 10 pages, past 20 pages. Google doesn't give you an end. So I believe schema was designed to bring those important factors into one spot. So the search engines don't have to work as hard to put one and one together, two and two together, three and three together. It's all right there in the schema code. And the search engines can say, yep, this website belongs to this website. This website belongs to this person. This person belongs to this article. And so you're really organizing the content out there about that person, brand, product, service, whatever, and making it a lot easier for Google to not only understand you and yourself and your brand, which is all about brand nowadays, but understanding your content of your website, what your page is about, who's your target audience, what other entities are connected to this type of system, those type of things.
I am super excited to have you here, Terry. So Terry, how did you get into SEO? Where did you come from? Let's set the table a little bit here.
When the housing market crashed, Elizabeth and I were, house flippers back in the day. And when the market crashed, I was kind of figuring out what to do. Just had shoulder surgery. That was a lot of fun. But before the real estate game, I was a software developer. Used to build websites with Dreamweaver and some pharmacy portals and stuff like that for smaller towns that didn't have a Walgreens or a CVS. And then so when the real estate market crashed, I started doing websites again, mainly for my church, and then a couple other people just to try to build up a portfolio. Still doing it in Dreamweaver, so it's still taking me 6 to 8 weeks to do a website. The developer I was working with on these portals told me that you need to start looking at WordPress. And I was like, oh, there's no effing way I'm going to do WordPress. That open source crap, it's not going to last, but here we are. They were doing websites for $500 in a weekend, and I was charging 10,000 for a 6 to 8 week project. And so I kind of got forced into WordPress. So I was just designing for a while. I brought Elizabeth, my wife, on shortly after that, because I have no design skills whatsoever. I think all my websites were purple and blue. Didn't matter what kind of theme or whatever. But we specialized in churches, charities, and foundations when we started. And one of my charities that we'd been working with web design wise asked me to take a look at this monthly service she was paying for called search optimization. I was like, okay, that's interesting. So started investigating it and seeing what this person was sending her and everything. And
what year was this, Terry? What time period?
This was about 10 years ago, 11 years ago now almost.
Okay.
So
2013.
We started out about that time. And I think I charged her like $400 or some silly amount, just to try to figure out what all this was. About a couple weeks later, I had a friend of mine from church come up to me and says, hey, my website has completely disappeared from the internet. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is going to be interesting. So I started looking at his. And so I'm looking at these two websites. One is just trying to figure out what is this thing she's paying for. And the other one is figuring out why is this person's website gone. And that was about the time Google was starting to do their updates, their animal updates and everything. So they were kind of getting a little bit more sophisticated. Anyways, on the charity side, I just basically saw that this kid was just buying a whole bunch of backlinks. If she was paying a couple $1,000s a month, he was spending a few $100 buying backlinks, and that's all this kid was doing. He wasn't doing anything to the website itself, just strictly buying backlinks. And back then, there really wasn't a lot of choices. You couldn't buy a whole bunch of backlinks about medical. It was like packages of all kinds of bad, good backlinks and bad backlinks. Anyways, but it was interesting because my insurance guy, that his website disappeared mainly because of backlinks. So now I'm sitting there looking at this thing going, oh crap, there's a system here. And so when I started talking to Tony, the guy from the insurance company, he was spending about $2,500 every 6 months on link packages. And so I basically learned the charity just stopped paying because they weren't getting their bang for their buck and whatever. And I told her, I said, look, I don't really have any idea what to do to charge you, but let me get through this one person here and then I'll reach out to you. But anyway, so I started working with Tony, getting into the SEO, trying to figure out what happened, why he's in penalty, going to using the disavow tool like daily. That's the only tool we really had back then to combat anything from Google. And I took on another local guy at air conditioning company, brand new website that Elizabeth had just finished. So I started a brand new project. So anyways, long story short, after I got Tony out of penalty, it took us about 13 months. And now I had like 2 or 3 little clients here and there, still charging like $400, $600, $700 a month, nothing really big. But I started figuring out that this was more to my liking because of the development side. It was more of the code side. I got into, algorithm updates. I got into reverse engineering. I got into, what can I do to shift things one way or another. And it was still pretty new. You could still pretty get away, or you could still pretty much get away with anything with Google, minus buying a whole bunch of porn links and stuff like that. So that's basically how I got started. So after the first year of, I say, dabbling in it, then I started actually getting serious in it. And Elizabeth was doing more of the design. I was doing more of the SEO. I went out and bought, I think, 50 just random domains to test stuff with, because I knew I wanted to test on my own network type of thing instead of, hey, Bob, you just hired me, I'm going to use your website to test on. So I got to be really, really efficient at on page. I started really paying attention to what Google liked, what Google didn't like. I started paying attention to the algorithm updates that were around content. We still did some link building, but it was more from trusted sources. It wasn't just going out and buying a package. I'd buy a backlink here and a backlink there. But I really never got into backlinks until about the 4th year of my SEO walk. And that was when I met Clint Butler. Clint Butler and I, became super close friends. And he's the one that basically taught me in not only the importance of backlinking, but how to do it the right way. And so that's kind of how I got started. So now I'm kind of addicted. I've got clients, I've got affiliates, I do a ton of audits. I have a big white label agency, that does SEO and stuff. So I have SEO University where I teach it. So
yeah,
it's interesting because I never thought I'd do this full time. I never thought it would, quote unquote, kind of turn me on enough to get out of bed every day and, go deal with the Google animal.
It seems like you really have a passion for trying to understand how things work and unpack it, and like that whole fact-finding discovery. It just seems like that really sucked you in, huh?
It really did, especially when I started getting into schema 6 years ago. I really started getting really interested in it, because now here is something that not very many people were doing, if any. And you could really start doing a lot of different things to kind of get Google to understand your site differently than they might understand your competitor. And, and so it really, reverse engineering, probably one of the greatest pieces of advice I ever got, especially about link building, is I had a guy I really respected. He said, go reverse engineer Pornhub. You'll learn how to link build. You go after these heavy traffic, heavy gambling sites, rehab sites, these sites that get millions upon millions of hits every single month, and it's 4 or 5 of those. It's not one person that rules the roost type of thing. So all these guys are fighting for backlinks. And that's how I learned how to, the importance of how to do backlinking the right way. I love the reverse engineering piece of it. So when I'm a constant student, I'm always learning. I watched a podcast this morning about some technical stuff that, I struggle with the speed aspect of stuff and getting into servers and stuff like that. And this podcast really kind of opened my eyes about a few things I need to, if I have that problem, there's a certain area with speed that you don't have to worry about. But I've got one site that we didn't build that I'm pretty much struggling with speed wise. So just doing research, so yeah, that's how you do it.
I know one of the things that you're well known on, and that you teach is related to schema. So let's just unpack this just a little bit. We don't have to go super deep in it, but let's just explain, like, what is schema, how important is it? And like, what can somebody do so that they can really take advantage of it?
Schema, in my mind right now, is one of the most important things to do, especially with the wrath of AI content being loaded on the internet every second of every day. You really have to set yourself apart. So not only does Google understand you and your web page better, but it's also more efficient. So a lot of people don't realize that the schema code was developed by the four big search engines: Google, Yahoo, Bing, and Yandex. It's the only code they ever designed together. And it was I think it's 15 years. I had this question answered to me yesterday. I didn't look it up, but I think schema itself, the code wise, is about 15 years old. I personally believe that this code was designed to organize the internet. So when you think of schema and you think of a search, so you search for a name or a brand or a product, there is hundreds of thousands of results, past 10 pages, past 20 pages. Google doesn't give you an end. So I believe schema was designed to bring those important factors into one spot. So the search engines don't have to work as hard to put one and one together, two and two together, three and three together. It's all right there in the schema code. And the search engines can say, yep, this website belongs to this website. This website belongs to this person. This person belongs to this article. And so you're really organizing the content out there about that person, brand, product, service, whatever, and making it a lot easier for Google to not only understand you and yourself and your brand, which is all about brand nowadays, but understanding your content of your website, what your page is about, who's your target audience, what other entities are connected to this type of system, those type of things. But I believe once you do schema right, the right way, then Google doesn't have to work as hard just to crawl your page, and Google doesn't have to work as hard to figure out, is this Patrick with a C or Patrick with a CK? So you really start giving Google a better snapshot of, nope, it's Patrick with a C. It's not Patrick with a CK. And so without that, Google's still guessing. That's why it comes up with so many results. I really believe that if every single website had the schema that needed to be done and designed, the number of search results would be huge less. You wouldn't need as many because Google doesn't have to show 100,000 pages when somebody searches Terry Samuels SEO. That's kind of like my schema in a box snapshot. Yeah. Think it's important? Yeah, 100%.
So do users that come to the site, did they see the schema, or this is just for Google and the search engine?
Yeah, it's just for the search engines. It's in the code. One of the secrets that we use schema for is if stuff like, we've all heard, I don't want to add any more content to my website. My website has too much content. We don't even have those conversations anymore. We just put it in schema. So, and then, like I said, you can put different things in schema. It's great for misspelled words. There's a lot of terms out there, marijuana, some of the other terms that I can't spell. So those are terms that get misspelled in searches, but you really don't want to put those on the public side facing page. So you put them in schema. Marijuana is spelled seven different ways, as knows about. So, there's all kinds of ways to get Google to have a better snapshot of that web page without having to go in and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I think we need to add 500 more words to this page. Which is a conversation that you have to have these days. It's all about content now, in my opinion. Backlinks are super, super important, but I think content is where you change the game.
Right. So Terry, you alluded to this a little bit, and I'm curious, what's the impact that AI is having on schema, and why has schema become more important as AI has given people the ability to create more content?
I think the big thing is that, understanding how search engines and crawlers work. So I think one of the biggest struggles that the search engines have, besides storage is going to be a problem, has been a problem for years, getting worse and worse every day. But I really believe that the search engines don't like crawling 15 different codes there's so many different codes nowadays. It's not like when the internet started and it was pretty much HTML and CSS, versions of that. But now you've got so many different codes, you got so many different platforms, you got so many different types of different systems that the search engines have to crawl, that I believe that because schema is their code, it's in the head of the website, they always crawl it. They understand it. So no matter what AI is doing, if it's generating 100,000 pages a day automatically, it's still generating crap. It's still generating stuff that not only is Google going to crawl, but maybe not index. It could be a week or 2 weeks before somebody comes back to crawl our website. But right now, when everybody's pumping out content, especially the automated stuff that nobody's looking at, it's just getting crazy junk. I was searching for, of course, we're all getting ready for Christmas, and I was just searching for some different ideas on driving irons for one of my kids, and I couldn't believe some of this content. You go to a review page, and it was just junk. It was like, what the hell? I know a human didn't even look at this, and I'm not saying that humans need to write everything by any means, but the humans, in my opinion, need to at least be involved in the final product that you're putting out there. And I think that's going to continue to be a problem. I think I read a thing a couple weeks ago that there's a new website loaded every 3.5 seconds right now to the internet, and that could be 10 pages or 10,000 pages as fast as these AI content writers are writing.
Yeah. So it sounds like essentially Google is overwhelmed with the amount of content, and there's only a percentage of the sites that are taking advantage of schema. And the schema makes it easier for them to understand and process the content. And we're all limited by Google's crawl budget that goes through our sites, which means the ones that are telling Google exactly, hey, here's a perfect map, they'll be more efficient on those sites.
Oh, yeah.
Well, on other sites. Am I right?
100%. I mean, think about, a lot of things. The biggest thing I see problems with the audits is all around content, whether it be excessive 404 errors on your internal links. So if you're a robot and you come to this page and the first link you see goes to a 404 page, I don't believe that Google says, oops, goes around that and goes down the page some more. I believe they're gone. I don't believe they back up and go anywhere. But if they're if you're on page and your schema is set up correctly to where their links work and follow and make sense in a topical nature, I think you're going to get much more benefit for your content. Indexing has always been a problem, at least for the last over a year and a half before ChatGPT really came along. And now I know Google's struggling. Phoenix, they're building like a 12 million square foot server farm in the middle of Phoenix right now. And I heard that's like one of 30 that these companies are building because of all this data. So it's getting crazy out there, but I do believe in, a lot of people that play in the advanced schema game, like I do believe that, it's more important now than ever, right. Because Google's got to understand your content. It's got to understand it quickly and efficiently and move on to the next one. So, and we see that through all the stuff that we do. I've got a website that has nothing but schema on it. It's been ranking for 5 years now, and it goes up, and every time that algorithm update goes up, and I don't touch it. So we know and understand that the search engines read schema, and we know they give it credit. So now the big question is, do they need to crawl the rest of the page, or can they get enough information from a snapshot, move on to the next one, kind of,
right?
Get our crawl budget.
Get more call budget. Yeah, exactly. So I know we've had this conversation and I've seen the site, and we're not going to go into the details about it, but just to kind of like explain how it works is you've built a site that has no content. It's just like all lorem ipsum, right? It's just
it's not even lorem ipsum. It's just blank. I think I've got a video on one on a couple pages. But yeah, it's just blank on the front side. So
but the schema is causing it to rank for some what could be perceived as some kind of semi-competitive terms, at least, right?
For sure. Yep, for sure.
So it's terms that have value in a certain.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. And even the FAQ page gets right around between 60 and 100 clicks a month, and there's no FAQs on it. They're all in the schema.
Right.
So so we know for a fact that they read it, they understand it, they give credit for it. what we don't have a real good pulse on is what else do they need to give you more? And so that's always the test. What else do I need? Either put more into schema, which I spent all weekend doing a massive schema project for a huge HVAC company, a white label deal. And we found, probably 10 or 15 different variables that we're adding to our new templates now because of testing. It's all about testing, just because you can do it, we want Google to see, yep, we like it, or no, we don't like it. So, and once we like it, then we need to implement. And that's where the staff comes in to implement.
Yeah, excellent. I just want to change gears a little bit for a minute. So, Terry, tell me, what do you think the top 3 most important things to do for on-page? That, or like maybe there's some people that are making some common mistakes with on-page. Can you give us a couple bullet points that listeners could just implement?
Well, I think the biggest thing again, and it's all, if you look at the last 12 algorithm updates, 9, maybe 10 of those have been content related. So we know Google's paying much more attention to the content, and it makes sense if they're having problems crawling and indexing, they want to pay more attention to that. So what I believe is the number one thing that we've seen is like content. So back in the day, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we were having to pay for content. We were paying for 400 to 500 word articles. And that was pretty much standard throughout the industry. You go out and buy 10 articles for your plumbers and 10 articles for your, garage coating, go out and just purchase content. Well, that was two things that caused that. One is Google was okay with that back then. And 2, it was somewhat affordable. If you got 1,000 word article, your costs were now double. And so as an agency owner buying content for clients, you're like, okay, well, do I spend 400 or do I spend 200? Well, that kind of all changed throughout the algorithm updates. One of the first algorithm updates, so about over a year ago now, was around like content, and we saw that. We went back and we had, blogs that were 300 words. We had pages that were 300 words, and we went back and said, okay, well, let's add 300 words to each page. And we saw an increase. So we saw a way to come out of that. So nowadays, we still see like content. I'm doing a big audit right now, and probably 70% of the site is less than 500 words per page. And again, talk about crawl budget. I think Google would rather crawl a page with 1,000 words than 500. It's just more information to absorb, more information to digest, more ways to give you different credit. So right now, I believe our minimums are anywhere between 800 and 1,200 words per page. That's the first thing. Second thing is the internal linking now. So the internal linking structure of a website has to be dialed in topically. Okay, so the old days of writing a blog about web design, and now all of a sudden you mention SEO, you're going to put a link over to the SEO page. You mentioned internet marketing. Oh, here's a link over to the internet marketing page. But your blogs around web design, those kind of systems are done also. So that's actually the fastest way that we see an increase in rankings is changing the internal anchors of the current content. That's the biggest bump we've seen. And so we'll go back and look at topically through categories. Here's all your web design categories. We'll pump them into Sitebulb or NetPeak Spider, or some people like Screaming Frog, and we'll figure out what all those internal links are for that web design topic. And anything that's not within web design, we go in and change back to web design. So we're getting rid of all the SEO, we're getting rid of all the internet marketing, email marketing, all that crap. And so we've gone now and topically internally linked our websites. You're still going to have overlapping content, totally fine. We do that all the time. Why does Google love WordPress for SEO? Well, obviously you're going to have links to WordPress and SEO on that blog, but because it's not topically generated for one specific topic. But keeping it topically relevant and keeping it tight, because if you want to rank for web design and you go through a web design cluster and all of a sudden you've got a link over to the SEO, Google's gone. They're over to the SEO now. They're not giving you any credit for your web design anymore because you sent them away. So that's number 2. And number 3 is I think you've really got to be better with your header tags. So the old days of Dallas Plumber being your H1, I don't think give you as much credit compared to you know, finding a local finding a local plumber in Dallas, making it more, grammatically sentence related correct than just saying, "Hey, Dallas plumber." And so I think that's the third biggest thing as far as the things you can do to improve it. One thing I love about content is you can make those type of improvements and see results much, much, much quicker than me giving Patrick $500 to go buy me some backlinks. That might take 2 weeks or 2 months or 4 or 5 months to get any credit for, to where content, you can see a result pretty quickly that you're on the right track. The big secret is then to get Google to come back to your website to see that you've made these changes. So I see websites that I could probably place a bet that Google hasn't been there in months because it's such a mess. Why would they? Why would they keep coming there and hitting all those 404s, or why would they keep coming there and seeing 200 words of content? You're not impressing anybody, including Google, in my mind. Those are the three things I think you can make the biggest impact the quickest. Repurposing old content, that's a great strategy. If you've got blogs from 2, 3, 4 years ago and they're still relevant today, repurpose them, maybe even add a couple paragraphs, internally link them right, redirect the old page to the new page. Google loves it.
Right. So what does somebody do if they have an old site and then they make all these changes, but because the state of the site was in previously, Google, you're in the doghouse with Google. So how do they get them to come back to their site now?
Well, there's a couple ways. Obviously, yeah, once you make all the changes and you're still in that, we call it the stagnant mode. Maybe you've been going down, but now you're flatlined, and now you need to have that flat line start going up. There's a couple different things you do. I love press releases for that type of stuff to get Google to come back as a brand. It's all about the brand now. So we're not going after individual terms. So, it's all do a press release about the brand, maybe stack a couple press releases about the brand. Go out and look for backlinks, look for backlink opportunities. You can go into Ahrefs or SEMrush or one of these tools that'll give you opportunities for backlinks that maybe your number one competitor has that you don't, and figure out how to go about that. Is it a local business? Maybe we need to focus more on the map side to get the leads coming in on the map side while we fix the organics. So there's all kinds of different variables, but I think the biggest thing is you've got to stop the drop. And that's one of the things that people come to me and hire me to do their schema, but schema is not a magic bullet. Schema is not going to typically stop the drop. If Google's upset at you, you got to find out why, fix the why, and then we put the schema as the icing on the cake. I've proven time and time again that you can't take a falling website and add this incredible schema and Google's going to go, "Oh, wow, look at this," and raise it back up. There's some other factor involved that we need to find and fix first.
Yeah, schema's like a spotlight or a magnifying glass. If there's problems, you're going to highlight those. If you've made it great, then you're going to highlight that too. So that's an important distinction. So I want to ask you, like you've kind of mentioned this, but let's get clear on what this is. What is this like? Keyword or content clustering, and how do you structure that, and why is that important?
There's a couple reasons why. One is because your money page, that's the common term we have. So if your money page is your, Dallas plumber page, and that's the page that you want the leads to come into, the plumbing page, content wise, can only rank for so much. Now, we all know plumbers have a bunch of terms, thousands and thousands of terms. But if you look at your plumber page and you've got 1,000 words on there, maybe you've got some FAQ on there or whatever, but you're only ranking for 15 or 20 keywords, that's all Google's giving you credit for. Because again, Google sucks at guessing and they typically don't try. And two, if you don't mention something, Google's not automatically going to say, "Oh, hey, I'm going to rank you for this also." So the idea of clustering is you have your money page and you go in through people also ask, PAA, or you go into queries through Search Console, and you want to find out what people are searching for and how they're searching for. That might give you some ideas on how to get more keywords for that page. So for instance, if you're a plumber and you you do tankless hot water heaters. That's probably one of your biggest bang for your bucks. So we're going to go and do a cluster around tankless hot water heaters. So because we want to raise not only the keywords and the traffic and conversions for that money page, but we wanted to have more of them. Okay, so we're going to write an article about solar and tankless hot water heaters. We're going to write an article about where's the best place to install a tankless hot water heater. We're going to write an article about what's the differences between traditional and tankless hot water heaters. So we're going to write 6, 8, 10 articles in a cluster, all internally linked together and internally linked to the money page, that tankless hot water heater page. So what that does now is it takes that tankless hot water heater page and gives Google an opportunity to rank it for much more, many more keywords, because you're now internally linking all these topically related PAA type of articles to that page. So Google has a clear understanding. This is the center of the hub. These are supporting articles about this page, and we've all internally linked them properly. So now Google gives you credit for a lot more. And we've been doing clusters for about 2 years. It used to be a very expensive thing, and now it's obviously at a much more affordable rate with a personalized ChatGPT or system.
Content clustering, how does that impact and help with let's define what
the keyword cannibalization is when you have 2 pages fighting for the same term. And it's very common, and it's even common in clusters because Google will, again, try to make a guess. And so it's our job, whether we do it through schema or we do it through internal linking, we can kind of change the idea of that cannibalization. But yeah, cannibalization can be a difficult thing. Even if I see a lot of home pages that'll try to capture all these keywords that these inside pages need to be. So the home page will cannibalize the water heater page because you have a whole section on your home page about water heaters. You have maybe you've bought some backlinks or something about water heaters to your home page, but Google hasn't made that connection between that water heater on the home page to the water heater page. So anytime you have cannibalization, you got to see, number one, why. What page is it? Did I mention something on that page? Did I do some linking to a different page? And then if nothing, then I go out and I see, okay, is something internally or externally linking to that page? Then the final thing, if you can't figure out to stop the cannibalization, you just do a canonical over to the other page. Don't delete it. Just tell Google, yep, this is the same page. Put fight me on it. So it's not as common as it used to be, cannibalization, but we still see it, especially when you're writing a lot of content around a lot of the same topic. So I've got a client right now, white label. I'm doing a bunch of web design stuff, and the conversation we had before Thanksgiving is we need to start spreading it out a little bit. We're going to get to where, we can write 100 articles about web design and all the different aspects of it, but we need to do some other stuff because we don't want Google to just think you're web design apps.
Can you use the internal linking as a way to help fight this keyword cannibalization by saying, like, hey, this is the hot water heater, and that's going to this page, and all these links that say that are kind of like going only to, is that a strategy?
Yep, you can definitely do it. So that's actually the first thing we do is we go and look and see what are the internal anchors. Do we need to change any of those? Maybe we're using the same anchor too closely related, something like that, to give Google a better snapshot. But yeah, that's always the first thing you do is see what the internal anchor is. And look at the URL structure. Sometimes the URL structure without on purpose will be too close together. And so you might have to change the URL structure and redirect the old page to the new page. But yeah, you definitely want to see what's so alike that Google's fighting me on which page to give credit for. And that's right. The first thing you try to fix. So
Terry, I know that you do a lot of auditing. And if we kind of separate out, hey, we've got the Google Maps, and I want to get into that in a few minutes. We've got the website. But when you take on a new client, I think one of your first steps is going to be an audit to we've got to understand where we are so that we can build a strategy. What is the high level steps of an audit look like from Terry Samuels?
From a very high level, and then the high level typically happens before I even have a conversation with them. So before I even talk to anybody on the phone, I get some information. Just first of all, to see am I wasting my time or is this not even a good fit out the gate? But the biggest thing that I do in audits is I definitely do an on-page audit. We definitely do a link audit. These are all basic. They're not getting really into in-depth. And then we'll do somewhat, depending on the problem, we sometimes we'll look at competitors. Most of the time we don't even get into competitors because by the time I get the website, they're typically on a downhill turn. And so competitors don't even come into the game yet. We've got to get going back up first. But yeah, definitely the on-page audit, the thing we're looking for is words on page. Do we have any duplicate titles and descriptions? Do we have any, how many H1s do we have on a page? What I'm doing right now is just typical designer website. I think there's 11 H1s on the homepage, typical stuff like that. But we also have found out that just fixing that isn't going to do a lot unless you fix everything else. So, and then that would typically be the first step. And then if we want to do a deep audit, then we get into log files. We get into, how often do the search engines come? What pages they come in or fall off. I've got a lot of tools that we use for deeper audits, especially on the link side. And we always look, if they're a local business, I spend probably half of the time looking at the map because typically it's really kind of sad when I get a website and the map's not producing, because even though they're related, you can produce one without the other, and we've all done that. So, I'll spend time on the map, and maybe the first month we're doing some content work but most of the resources are going towards the map, so, in local, I think, well, it's more than anybody, but if you're not playing the map game in local, what the hell are you doing? So, I mean, it's one thing to say my website's losing keywords, but if your map's not bringing in leads, that's a bigger problem.
Right.
So, and so that's kind of the system. I've done audits for Walgreens. I've done audits for some major freaking, places. And unfortunately, people don't like to hear the problems because it's going to take either time, effort, or money to fix.
Yeah, it's going to cost you one way or another. It's just like,
yeah,
do you want to pay to fix it, or do you want to continue missing out because you didn't fix it? So, Terry, you've done work for some major brands, Walgreens. What are some of the other big clients that you've worked with that you're able to mention?
I've done a little bit with ClickFunnels. I've done a little bit with Mastermind.com, Tony Robbins and that group. And then of course, Chris. I've done work for Chris. I've done work for Carl. Just finished
for Wealth Society, right?
Yeah, from the Wealth Society. And those ones are a lot of fun because they know there's a problem and they're willing to deal with that compared to somebody that's, the big ones I have a problem with. I did this one for an auto parts company. I can't say their name, but it's literally probably going to cost them $250,000 to fix that website. Mainly because it's just old. It's just, they've got 50,000 products and it's going to cost you money to do a new website. And they're not mobile compliant. And it's one of those things that, you get those guys that waited so long that now it's becoming an issue and you either have to pay or go away. And that's the unfortunate thing. And I get a lot of people upset with us because I also am not the one that'll fix it. Walgreens could never hire me to fix that crap just because it's, I'll give you all the instructions and, but I don't want to build a team around one project type of thing. I've been down that road before where I had a Fortune 100 company and the respect's not there that you just get that call on a Wednesday saying, "Hey, we're done. See ya."
So there's a lot of, it's a completely different atmosphere and environment. Let's go back to maps. So, we're both huge believers in maps for local, and for Google Maps, what's the order of the top ranking factors?
I definitely think topical traffic, branded traffic. I think reviews are important, but I also think reviews are getting more scrutinized. I mean, I think they just came out with this NARC system again. Who knows how that's going to work? We always seem to, take the worst of good tools and destroy them. But I do think more brand, more referral traffic, all the different stuff. And one of the things that we've realized over the past 18 months or so is how important other non-Google traffic is for everything. I mean, maps included. So we spend a lot of time on brand. We spend a lot of time on the optimization side of it. I'm still a believer in GBP posts and questions and answers. As far as optimization, I think I see citations definitely 100%. I definitely see more over optimization lately than anything, especially around categories. I'm really heavy in the med spa space, and I have to ask the questions: are you really a day spa? If you're not that, don't include the category. Be more precise, be more, specific to who you are. If you want to expand later, you can expand later. But again, don't stretch everything so thin that Google doesn't make a decision on anything. So we will remove categories probably more often than a lot of people will. I'm a big believer in map embeds, as many as you can possibly get, anywhere you can get. That's why we like press releases so much.
The map embeds real quick. Let's just, for maybe people that are out there listening, business owners that aren't maybe agencies, what is a map embed? And like, how does that work?
A map embed is just what it sounds, an embed of your map in somebody's publication, or somebody's web page. And the more you can get in our mind, the better, because especially if you're going after, press releases, you can get into some local stuff. When you get into link building, especially if you go after chambers and BBBs and stuff like that, you can get some good map embeds. But I think map embeds is it showcases who you are. Every citation gets a map embed. So, we build out hundreds of citations, and press releases. If we stack a press release, that'll be 1,500 embeds, and we definitely see a movement on it. And you can kind of manipulate the code in there a little bit, to kind of give Google the same snapshot, but different. So you can do some code wise, that's a little bit more advanced. But yeah, I think having a well optimized GMB, having all the questions answered, your hours, all the different things, especially restaurants and, things that people search near me. You really need to make sure you're on point. If you breakfast, lunch, and dinner, make sure you list them all. If you're only dinner, make sure you only list dinner. So really pay attention to, because that's your window out there to the internet, is your map, your local business.
Right.
If your map isn't accurate, if you're not open 24/7, don't say 24/7, or don't say emergencies. Don't say that type of stuff. Don't give Google a different snapshot than who you are, because that'll affect your reviews. They told me they're open 24/7. I called at 1:00 in the morning and nobody answered the phone. Bad review. So
yeah, and the edits, right? Like, people are coming through, and hey, we loaded this thing up, and then 10 people make a suggestion to your profile that you're not open at this time. You're not open 24/7. And now, what does Google think about trusting all the other information you put in here? Is like, well, this person is loading this up with stuff that's not true, right?
That's a fact. I mean, that's the whole thing. We really have a good conversation with our clients about, number one, getting reviews, and number two, how to reply to them. I think the reply is more important than the review itself. I think if you can get people to mention service location and stuff in a review, that's awesome. But typically they don't. But if you can in the reply, you should. And that's one of the biggest things. I teach people that every single employee should wake up in the morning, Google a keyword term, find your place that you work, hit the driving directions and drive there. 48 hours, Google will ask you for a review, take some pictures around the office, do a quick video, upload that. You just helped your business owner 1,000%, because you went from one location to another. You did what we call the full Monty. You did the driving directions, you arrived, you did a review, you took some pictures, you took a video. Not only did you help your Google, your Google number, your power number, level 10 guide, but you also helped your business owner 1,000%. So
yeah, really great tip.
We actually have a card we give to all our clients to hand to their employee. Say, here, just follow this. All you just need to do it once. You don't want to do it every day, because then you're going to kind of look, Google's going to be like, oh, but just do it once. Every employee from wherever you're at in the city, and you start seeing how far you can stretch those little heat map bubbles.
Right. So Terry, you've mentioned that you're tracking the measurements on different things and you're seeing movement and it would be we would be remiss to not ask somebody who a high level SEO person like yourself, what are your favorite tools and what are you using to track these different things, not only the maps, but in other areas?
Well, the maps is definitely LeadSnap. I'm a huge LeadSnap fan. And it's the bubble map is great. My fan is because two things. One, my staff doesn't have to log into the maps anymore to work on them. They just log into LeadSnap. Number one, agency owner, I don't have to shit my pants every morning to see if my Pakistani group freaking got a map suspended. Number two is the listings are locked down. So all these recommended phone number changes and all the crap that we all try to fight, your system locks it down and at least gives you, hey, somebody's trying to do something here. You want to do it or not do it. Google used to warn us about that crap. Google doesn't warn us anymore, not all the time. So we have to do a third-party system. So for maps, it's definitely LeadSnap. I do use Local Dominator also because I'm a big believer in tools. I like to compare apples and apples and oranges and oranges. Some of them I've got people that like the old UI for that one, so why would I get rid of it? Organic rankings, I use Serple, SERPLE. And that one is after I think we tested 6 or 7 different ranking tools for organics. And Serple was not only the most accurate, but also the most cost effective. I use NetPeak Spider and Sitebulb for audits. Those are my two big audit tools, and my on-page tools for that matter. Let me see. ChatGPT. I personalize ChatGPT. I teach everybody how to personalize ChatGPT for content. Oh, geez, I don't know. Let me see what else. Teamwork is our project management system. We're high level users. But we are also looking at other opportunities that are kind of high level spinoffs. I'm not married to anything unless it makes my job easier. Content wise, we use ZimWriter. Gosh, I don't even know what else. So I have 2 people that do maps full time. I think we have 100+ maps. Yeah, that's off the top of my head. Ziska? This is my other one. So Zizta is our kind of like our AI tool that we use. It helps us with doing some research for schema. It helps us with building some pages for like cities and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool tool.
Excellent. Yeah, super helpful. Terry, I know from your past events with the schema, you've had some templates and stuff like this that you give to help people get started. Is it possible that we could give some sort of template to our users?
Mm-hmm. Yep, I can give you guys a template for site-wide.
We will connect that. We'll put a link into it and we'll make that so you guys can get access to that and download it. Let's change gears a little bit here. We've talked about like some of the low hanging fruit and the audit strategies. What do you think? Like, what are the top 3 mistakes that you see SEOs make today?
Well, first of all, is not doing anything or not doing enough to do what you need to do. I see more lazy SEOs than ever before. We just call them pocket pinchers. They just take the money and stick it in their pocket and they're gone. Because unfortunately, this is a game that you could play for a few months and kind of ride it out. You might lose this client in 6 months or so, but you just got 6 months worth of payments for nothing. And I think that's my biggest thing. The second one is not testing. Seeing something in Facebook group or something and running out and implementing that on your client site. Not only is it very dangerous, but most people don't realize that bad SEO takes 10 times as long to fix rather than doing it right. Once you piss off Google, it's a struggle getting the animal unpissed. So, and unfortunately, I see a lot of that through the audits that we do. And I think third is just, again, not having the right game plan, putting everybody in the same bucket. It doesn't matter if you're a plumber or an HVAC guy or a lawyer or whatever. Everybody gets thrown in one of these 3 buckets. Everybody gets the same 60 citations. Everybody gets the same back. It's just, you can't do that anymore. Everybody's different. I specialize in medical spa And the only difference is I've got to know what is the difference between Dallas and Phoenix and Fort Lauderdale. The services are all the same. Now I just need to know geo related, which is the most important part. What do I need to do to service that client? Maybe this Fort Lauderdale one needs more help. Maybe it needs more hours per month. So I'm not going to charge them the same as I'm going to charge this Dallas one that's doing pretty good. So we don't ever throw anybody in a bucket, especially on the white label side. I've got people that, why can't I have the same price every time? Because it's not the same deal, and if you do throw people in the wrong bucket, you're not going to be able to service them well. And then they're going to get pissed off. They're going to leave. They're going to come to me, and I'm going to have to tell them, well, whatever they're doing, they're not doing whatever they're telling you they're. So those are the big ones. And I think the biggest thing besides that, kind of a sidebar, you have to be more than the SEO guy now. You can't just be the SEO guy. You can't. If you're not having conversations with your clients about what else they need, you're not going to be around very long. My rule is, if they ask me something, yes, I do it. And if I don't, I will go out and I'll find somebody that does. I'll mark it up. Yes, I do it. So, I think the days of I had a guy tell me this last week we were on a podcast with about 6 other people. And this guy actually said, oh, my only job is to get him to rank. And I was like, then you're going to lose this client. Getting them to rank is only part of it. What are you doing to convert? Are they having trouble with sales? They're not going to admit that their sales is the problem. They're going to admit that you're sending them the wrong people. Well, you kind of need to be involved in that process to be able to defend yourself. You need to be involved with, listening to phone calls of people. Everybody gets a recorded phone call, and we listen to those, especially ones that are having trouble. We picked up a new client 3 weeks ago, and they're already at a 40% missed call rate. And it's his daughter that's the phone call person. Then I've got to have a conversation with dad over here going, Dad, 40% of your calls are missed. I don't know if you know that or not, which I'm sure he doesn't, but those are the bad conversations that we need to have. But if nobody told me that and it was one of the things in my business, I'd be upset. Why didn't you tell me that? So it's just, you got to be more than just the SEO, the ranker guy.
Right. You're kind of moved from just this like SEO into more of a consultant, where how do I help this person with the skill set and the skills around that skill set? How do I help them scale their company? Right.
Mm-hmm.
How do I help them get to a better place? Because for a lot of these companies, they might think that leads are the problem, but they're one of the problems, right? You had more leads and you don't have people answering the phone. You don't have the follow-up. You don't have good salespeople. It's not going to solve the problem. And if we can help them with that, then we become more valuable, right? So
that's the stuff that I really started mastering when I got involved with Rank Masters. When I got involved with you and Chris and Jeff and Rank Masters, I wasn't asking half of the questions I am now. I literally, within 20 minutes, I can tell you if we're going to work good together or not. And, if we are, we're going to continue to have a conversation. If not, you're not ready for me yet. But it's a conversation that I got to have. I mean, it's not that I'm bigger, better, or whatever. I just want to be more efficient with people's money. And if you're 3 months from closing your doors, first of all, SEO is not the answer. You need to be doing pay-per-click or something, but I'm probably not going to be a good fit because I'm probably going to have to undo everything before we fix it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the negative part of it, but you don't know unless you ask those questions.
For sure. Yeah. So Terry, we shared the stage at a number of different SEO events and agency events, and you have a big event that it's one of my favorite events. Every year is SEO spring training. What is that? Where is that? And like, what's the deal there?
SEO Spring Training is a conference that Elizabeth and I started 6 years ago. So next May, the first week in May in 2025 will be our 6th one. I used to do a lot of speaking when I was flipping houses, realtor groups and all kinds of stuff. But we never really did our own thing. I just was invited. I'd go, blah, blah, blah. But when we started getting into the SEO thing, first of all, we didn't know anybody for years. I mean, I think Clint's one of the first people I met, and I was already in SEO about 4 years by then. So I didn't know anything about these bigger events. I was kind of in my little hole. So I went to an event. Elizabeth didn't go. I went to an event, and the event was really kind of disappointing. It was, half okay, half, upsells and stuff. And I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just the way it is. So, and then I went to an event, and this event I had a chance to meet one of the people that I say taught me this business, and I was looking forward to this. I paid some extra money. I went to the event, and we all went to this other mini event to where we were supposed to meet this person, and the person didn't show up. I was all bummed. There was 10 of us, so it was this. So anyway, we were all bummed, and then I was bummed. I came back pretty pissed and told Elizabeth, I was like, this, conferences in this game is just a bunch of BS. So I put it off, didn't do any more. And then Elizabeth and I got invited to an event in Dallas called Rock Stars with a Z. And we went, and, mainly because she was going together. We hadn't been traveling in a while. And, that's when we met Holly Starks and some other people there. But the event itself was just horrendous. I mean, it was mostly content related. I think they had 4 or 5 different content editors or content writers. So it was nothing really in my wheelhouse. So we came back from that event, and we said, you know what, we just ought to do our own, and so we're like, okay, so we did the first one in 2019. Yeah, 2019, I think 2018. Anyways, I called up Clint. I met a few other people. I think we had like 10 speakers, 2 days. I think it was like 45 people or something like that for our first one. But it was really cool. We wanted to provide full value. That's one of the things I told Elizabeth and I both agreed on. We're not going to do this if anybody comes away with a negative response about anything. So that's why we included food. We included, different after party stuff, the receptions, a great VIP. And so we knocked it out of the park the first one. Next year, or the following year comes, and COVID hits 3 weeks before our event starts. And so the state of Arizona, the governor shuts down everything. So within basically about 16 days, Elizabeth and I had to pivot. And so we pivoted and said, I'm not giving a refund is pretty much not going to happen, because we've already paid for the hotel, caterers, all these things are happening. And so we said, fine, we'll just flip it and go digital. We didn't have any idea how it would work. So I found this cool piece of software, bought this software, did this digital thing, just started inviting people that didn't even know me. I just started inviting. Anyway, so what was going to be a 2-day live concert ended up being an 8-day, 72 speakers, 800 people came through our digital event, and it set us off. I mean, not only was it, even though COVID sucked, but it was perfect timing to have a digital event because everybody was locked down all over the world. So we had people coming in from everywhere. These events, people would stay the whole day. We'd have happy hour at night. People would leave at 10 o'clock at night. And anyways, it really set us apart. So we started taking it, doing it every single year. But it is a passion of ours. It's always been a passion of mine to teach and put people together in the same room that will help each other. And one of the reasons when we started looking at spring training, I wanted to keep it small. 200 people, right around there, no more. I wanted it to have, the location had to be a great place to network, bunch of different seating areas. People can go off to the side, and just really provide a good value piece. And so now I think it's got a pretty dang good reputation. It's all about value for us. We look at all the aspect of it. We know it's just not the ticket price. We know people have to pay to get there, and hotel and all that stuff. But we really want to make sure that people come back every single year. We try to get different speakers every year. This year we had over 60 people want to speak. And we've got some real power hitters coming over from the UK and Scotland and those places. But no, we're looking forward to it. It is one of the things that we love. We also love doing the little masterminds, but the spring training was our big event that we do every year. So last day for tickets if it goes out live for spring or for Black Friday tickets.
Yeah. I love it. I'm excited for it. That I loved the event last year. Really, with going golfing and the baseball game and all this stuff. It was just such a cool vibe. Been to a ton of different events. There's a lot to compare to. There's been a big sample size of stuff, and the spring training is certainly one of my all time favorites. So
And one of the things that we struggle with is hosting this, and as you do yourself, is that you want to provide value as far as education, but you also don't want to have burnout. So burnout's a big thing, especially when you get to the afternoon of the third day and everybody's just like walking around like zombies and stuff.
it's that
Yeah.
energy management, right?
Yep. And so you really want to have different things. That's why we like the stage and the breakout rooms and kind of the stuff that you do when you do your events. You have your little, breakout tables and stuff. That's all just awesome stuff. So
Awesome. Terry, if somebody wants to find more information from you or follow up with you, I'll put it in the show notes. But where can they reach Terry Samuels or website?
yeah, Facebook, I'm all over Facebook, LinkedIn. Those are probably the only two. Solterrasite.com is my main agency site. You can always get me through there. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. You can pretty much find me.
Yeah.
People know me everywhere. So.
Well, Terry, any final thoughts here before we wrap up today's call?
I think in the SEO game, the biggest thing I like to finish with when I do these things is just be better. You have to be better. If you've been in this game for years or whatever, and you've just been coasting, you have to step it up, because with everything that's happening now and in the future, and all these different search engines are coming up with their own, search GBT or whatever they're calling these things. You just have to be better. Don't just sit there in your hands. Go out and do some research, learn, test. Get into the game and have fun. If you're in the game to hurt people, there's a rude awakening coming. This site that I'm looking at right now that I'm auditing, somebody really hurt this person, this family. And just always remember that you are working with people that are trying to put food on their table. We don't typically work with the Microsofts of the world. We work with small businesses that are just trying to survive. And so,
All right.
take that to heart and do right by them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, as you and I have both seen, there's people out there in the world that are going to do whatever they can to try to make money, and that can mean stepping on the throats of strangers and as we've seen too, our friends, right? Where it's just like putting that above it. And I know, Terry, one of the reasons I want to have you on the show is because you and I, we kind of see eye to eye on this. There's just like, never going to do that stuff. It's always going to be, leading with principles. So, okay. Well, Terry, hey, this was awesome, man. Tons of great value. SEO people out there trying to level up their game. Really appreciate you coming on here. So thank you so much for spending some time and sharing so much with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Like I said, I'm a big fan of everything that you guys do. I'm happy to contribute. Reach out to me if you guys have questions. I'm an open book. So
yeah, awesome. So Terry too has now become an SEO coach inside of Rank Masters, where he holds a monthly call to do all different topics in SEO, and it's such a valuable addition to the community, and there's so much disinformation out there in the SEO space. To have somebody that can kind of be like, hey, we've tested this, and we have a community of people that are testing nonstop, and this is what we're seeing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's incredibly valuable. So again, Terry, thank you so much for spending your time with us tonight, and yeah, I look forward to working with you more.
Yep, definitely. Thank you. Everybody have a wonderful week.